What's up everyone, Ronnie Chavez here, and if you're ready to take your flips to the next level, then you're ready to learn blocking. If you don't already know blocking or have mastered it, then you're really missing out, because this technique is really going to help improve your flips, help you flip faster, flip higher, and just be a lot more confident in the flipping you do. Now, it's a lot easier to do blocking technique for flips on a spring floor in a gym, but it's a different technique to do it on hard ground and on concrete. And so today that's mainly going to be our focus, is to learn proper blocking technique on hard surfaces so you're not damaging your joints and you're also getting super high in your flips. Before we jump into it, just a reminder, I have my new logo shirt out, which is blue on black. I think it's my coolest one yet. It's been my most popular one selling. Remember, if you buy t-shirts from my website, it helps support me and my channel so that I can keep making parkour tutorials for you guys. But otherwise, let's jump into it. So why do you need to learn blocking technique? Well, first off, I'm going to use this apparatus called a skateboard to help you understand the technique of blocking. Now let me show you in skateboard form what happens if you aren't blocking correctly. Now let me show you what will happen if you do block correctly. The reason I used a skateboard to demonstrate that was to help you visualize how blocking works, because when you just think about your legs doing the motion, it's harder to visualize it when you're first learning it. But if you see someone rolling on a skateboard, oh, it makes sense that if they're leaning forward and they suddenly come to a stop, they're gonna fly forward. Whereas if you're leaning backwards and you push against the skateboard at the same time it's stopping, it's gonna push you upwards and give you flipping rotation. So that's the basic physics of blocking technique. Now let's talk about what we're actually doing with our legs to accomplish that technique. So for a basic front flip using blocking technique, what I want you to practice and think about is like you're running and then coming to a stop. Think about what your legs have to do to come to a complete stop without moving forward. Generally, if you're gonna stop yourself, you have to run, jump up a little bit, reach your feet out in front of you, depending on how fast you're going, so that all that momentum can stop and you're using your legs to stop that momentum. That's basically what you're doing with blocking, but not so extreme. You're taking your momentum and you're reaching your feet out in front of you to stop that momentum, and then you're pushing that momentum upward. So instead of just stopping yourself, you're trying to push against it and send it upwards as you jump into the flip. And at the same time, what happens, just like we saw on the skateboard, when you fly forward, it's also giving you flipping rotation at the same time. So you want to make sure you utilize that with the jump. Otherwise, if you flip forward too soon and just let it throw you, then you aren't going to get any height. So you got to make sure you let it give you height, and then let your feet come behind you and your chest throw forward once you get that proper set, and you'll be able to get a lot more power out of your blocking. The first thing I want you to do is run at a decent pace and then try and just stop yourself, almost like you're doing a precision jump, just so you can feel what it takes in your legs to just stop your momentum immediately. Now when you're doing this, make sure that the surface you do it on isn't a slippery surface. So make sure you test it out and know that you're not gonna slip out. Once you know that, then once you start doing it, you'll notice that there's a lot of impact on your legs. Partially because we're not jumping and going into the flip yet, which will actually take away some of that impact, but there will still be a little bit of impact, and we're gonna talk about what you can do with your legs to make it not so hard on your knees. All right, the next thing I want you to practice after you've done those running stops is to actually try jumping with it now. The biggest thing with blocking is that it's all about timing. So taking your momentum, stopping your momentum, and then jumping into the flip at the right time are all going to contribute how successfully you've applied that blocking technique to your flip. And it comes with a lot of practice and time, just experimenting with the timing, maybe practicing on pads if you're uncomfortable with it at first. Just make sure that you work into it and always progress with all of these tricks. So when thinking about blocking on a hard surface, you're not just thinking about stomping the ground and stopping yourself. You're actually, what I like to do is let my knees be a little bit bent and keep my hips behind my knees as I come into it, so that I'm getting that lean back to push into it, and then I'm pushing against the ground, not necessarily stomping or stopping myself as much. I'm still stopping my momentum, but not on an impact. It's almost like I'm using my knees to absorb it a little bit and then push up. And what that does is it helps it, especially if I'm doing it on concrete, it's not going to be, my heels aren't going to be smacking the ground as hard, and there's not going to be nearly as much impact in my knees and hips. If you're on a spring floor in a gym, you can just punch those springs as hard as you want, straight legs, and you'll be fine. But concrete is going to be a little bit different. Let me demonstrate the two variations on concrete. First, I'm going to do the harder impact blocking technique, and then the second one I'll demonstrate proper blocking technique for a hard surface. Now that we have a basic understanding of the technique and how blocking works, it's also important to keep in mind your form with your body throughout the flip. So going back to the front flip example, just like a normal front flip, how you want to keep your chest tall and set high, you again, doing blocking technique, you want to keep your chest up and back, so that wherever you're blocking, your chest is behind where your feet are taking off for the flip. So if I'm blocking here, I want my chest back here, almost like if I don't have that momentum, I'm gonna be falling backwards. But your momentum's going to keep you pushing forward and allow you to get more push against the ground and send you upwards. So just remember, make sure that you keep your chest back, and that as you're pushing against the ground, you're keeping it up to get that set, and then rotating it once you get your full set to flip it around. Now this technique can be applied with most flips, even one-legged flips like the Webster. You're still doing similar blocking technique, just not as much punch and more kind of step and kick. If you watch my Webster tutorial, you can learn more about that. But this also applies to side flips, double legs, back flips. Like if you're doing round off back flips, again, you're applying blocking technique on a round off. That's the whole purpose of round offs and back handsprings, is to allow you to get a powerful block into your back tricks. If you have any questions about blocking, be sure to let me know in the comments. Additionally, if you have any other tutorial requests, I'll be sure to put those on my list of tutorials I have coming out. I'm going to try and do new tutorials every Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. And there still should be a weekly parkour video of some sort, or a vlog or something on my Friday weekly uploads. So be sure to stay subscribed, and as always, thank you for watching.